because you hear a lot of message about sufferings, today, right? And so in your own sense, I want to get a feel about what do you understand about suffering. Then we read the Bible, now all those who follow the Lord will suffer. If we suffer with the Lord, we glory with the Lord, yeah? So, but in your own sense, what do you understand by sufferings? Can we start from the youngest one? Okay? Esther, what do you understand by suffering?
Okay, to me, suffering is like situations or like events that God kind of puts in your life to strengthen your faith, I guess. For me, like the sufferings, I guess it's always just like school. Like school's a big challenge to me, and let's say I got like a bad grade on chess, I'd be pretty upset, and I think like if I get like a bad grade, I think it was some kind of message from God. Like He's telling me I didn't study hard enough, or I don't study for Him, or something like that.
Okay, so is it you are saying that the bad grade is a situation you encounter with, and then plus the accusation that probably you didn't study hard enough? Are you trying to say that? And okay, as pertaining to studies, any other sufferings?
Friends.
What about friends?
Like, if they're mean to me or if they're mean to other people, then I have like problems with them and stuff.
Mean to you, as when they ostracize you?
I guess. Like, I guess the people that are like my age, they don't. I guess it has to do with the feelism you were talking about. Like they don't like to listen to the brutal truth. So people wouldn't say bad things to their faces. Instead, they just say it behind their backs.
So how do you struggle in that sense?
Well, because I hear people talking about my friends.
Okay.
All the time.
So are you facing a contradiction of faith by being pressurized to agree with them or not to agree? Or you're just feeling indifferent?
Yeah, I'm kind of just there.
What there?
Like, I don't agree or disagree.
But what is your suffering when people talk bad about your friends?
Well, yeah, I guess it's like I'm pressured to like be on one side or the other.
Pressurized.
God wants me to like love.
So you struggle with your faith and the reality of having to take sides. Okay? All right? Okay. Belinda? Suffering.
Okay,
No. Hey, speak closer.
I think that suffering happens when I'm trying to obey God, but at the same time, like, I kind of want to satisfy my human nature. So it's hard to obey. And there's suffering because I know that God is trying to change me to become more like Jesus, but it's not always easy to obey.
Why not easy? What do you mean by okay, now I want to know what do you mean by obeying God? Is it whether your heart is feeling in sync with what the word says, or really doing something in sync with what God says? No, I want to know your definition.
I was thinking more of the doing something.
Doing something, okay, the doing part. Okay, is there a situation where you can be feeling otherwise, but you're still doing the right thing?
Yes.
Like, give me a success one. All right.
Could you repeat the question?
Okay. You were saying, right, obeying God to you is not so much about feeling, but it's really about doing the right thing. So is there any cases where, you're struggling with it, but you're still doing the right thing? Like what kind? Any example?
Like, if I feel like God really wants me to do something for someone else, that if I was not listening to God, I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it. Okay.
Like, I do something that I wouldn't want to do out of my nature, but I do because I think God wants me to do it.
Okay, but and so usually you will manage to do it.
Sort of. I guess
So what is the suffering?
not all the time, I guess, or just feeling like maybe I could be a better Christian.
Can be a better Christian, okay. So after you have done the will of God, as what God said, honestly, do you get the joy in your heart or just obligations?
Sometimes I get joy, but I think that also depends on seeing results.
Okay, so you want to see results. Results of what? And good consequences?
Yeah.
You
like,
feel
okay,
appreciated? Like,
Not really. It's not really about being appreciated, but just like, I don't know.
give me an example of a result. Are you talking about results from God? Hey, God, you reward me and through bringing some positive outcome? Or you're talking about, reaction from people that you...
Positive outcome.
Positive outcome.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's anything on no outcomes, but just approval of God because you have done the will of God.
If I don't see an outcome, then sometimes I'm not sure if God approved of it.
Okay, so you need the outcome to know whether God approved you. Usually, okay. So do you think that is the right thinking?
No.
No? After hearing my message, or?
Yeah.
So, okay, right. So which means that you don't have to look at the outcome. Just know the will of God and do it, all right? Are you trying to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it hard?
I guess I just had to practice it.
Practice it, okay. And how are you going to do it, by your own will? It's not, by the grace of God, right?
Yeah.
So how are you going to rely on that grace to do it?
Is the answer in the sermon?
You can
You're
use...
looking for something specific?
No, not really. I just want to know your thoughts. And when you say rely on the grace of God, because you're second generation Christian, you are born in the grace of God. Everything is about the grace of God. But the thing about that is whether we appreciate it and we rely on it. So I want to know, in your case, throughout your 20 years of Christian life, how do you rely on the grace of God, to do certain things that is beyond you?
Because if I didn't do it, then I would feel like I've disappointed God, or not really, but it feels better to be approved by God than to not.
Okay, all right. Okay, Sophia, again, what do you understand by sufferings? You got it? Use this.
I think suffering can take a lot of different forms. But suffering, it feels like a state of being. And every circumstance that come on, you latch onto that, and it gives a definition to your suffering. But suffering is always there because there is a sense that something's going wrong. Something is not right. That when I feel tired, that's not right. When I'm feeling unhappy, that's not right. When I'm feeling lonely and depressed, that's not right. That's just a sense of this is not how I'm supposed to feel. Life with God is supposed to be a lot better. There should be overabundant joy, there should be security, there should be comfort, and there should be assurance. But somehow, at this moment, I'm not feeling those things.
Okay.
And there's always this sense that I can never feel that perfect, that joy perfectly.
So have you experienced what I've just said about the opposing nature, the paradoxical grace, where you you're depressive and lonely, but at the same time, you're rejoicing in God in your suffering?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I think the moments when I feel that the strongest is when I'm in deep prayer. When I'm praying before God and being completely honest with Him, and actually being aware of why I'm feeling certain things. So being in tune with my feelings, but at the same time not just feeling it, but bringing it before God. And when I'm in conversation with God, that's when I can feel that He is present. You are talking to God because you know He's listening. The very act of talking to someone whom you know is listening brings a lot of comfort in the midst of your suffering because you know you're not alone. And also in the midst of talking to Him, talking to God, I remember those times when He was faithful. I remember that He's still faithful. And there are a lot of the truths that I know is true that I have to remind myself in a very verbal and very specific way.
So are there situations in your life that where you'll be just like talking to God, but nothing came into you, like you're just not set free. You're just not set free and all. So
I think those times when I feel set free is rare.
It's where?
Like, where it's like, oh, I'm okay now. Like, and those times are rare. Or if those times happen, they're only for the time when I'm feeling those things.
Are there instances in your life that while you are still in the midst of suffering, depressive state, but you are also ministering to people at the same time?
All the time.
You're still helping someone. So how do you manage that in your spirit? Do you see that as a glorious thing, or you feel more accused that because I've helped someone, but me, myself, I'm not okay, you know? No.
I don't feel accused because when I'm ministering to someone, there's something very healing in the act of ministering to someone. Because, I lead Bible study with this girl who's very heartbroken over all of her failed relationships. We're going through the book of Hosea together. And there are times when I really don't feel like talking about God. But it's a blessing because I'm forced to look at the Bible, and I'm forced to read the Bible with her out loud, and I'm forced to explain the Bible to her in a way. All of the things that I'm doing, I'm preaching to myself. And also there's just this sense of, when you talk about purpose, you feel the most like you are living out your purpose when you're ministering to someone whom you know God loves as well. I think the times when I feel God's love the most is when I'm loving someone else, in a strange way.
Yes. Yeah. So, does suffering mature your faith?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question here, from one of my brethren in Singapore. He says that sometimes suffering brings us closer to God, but suffering also draws us away from God. Is that true? Does suffering draws you away from God? Okay, we think about that, okay? We're going to think about that. Okay, Jilly, what does suffering mean to you?
我想很多苦难基本上有所谓的外在的跟内在的。那外在的话，通常都是来自于世界上的一些对我们的一些要求，或是一些试探、试炼。对，那有时候，譬如说从工作上的，或是从你的那个一些同侪上的对你的要求，譬如说他会给你一些很多的这种压力，要你完成什么东西，而且最主要、最大的问题是，他常常不会同时只给你一件，而是不断的一直过来。譬如说你已经制定好，在一个很繁忙的那个工作条件之下，然后你已经很紧凑这样一个环境之下，突然之间又来一件 比如说意外，你要必须同时在很短时间把这些问题都解决掉。或是说一些在你的那个工作环境里面，你的经理啊，你的那个同事啊，给你一些很不合理的要求，或是一些政治上很多公司之间的那种政治上的那些环境，所以说这些东西都会给你很大的一些埋怨啊，或是不平安啊，或是一些抱怨，对，那是这些是从外在的环境上的、世界上的对你的一些要求。那一些内在的呢，就是说你常常也会，当然会受到一些圣灵的责备吧。那就是说我们常常会觉得，哎，我在那个基督徒的这个生活上面，我常常觉得自己失败，或是我该做好，我应该这样做，但是我却没有按照这种基督所教导的方法，或是按照我所 expect 的譬如说我说了一句话不应该说的，我做了一些事情不应该做的，或是我那个偷懒该做的事没有做，这些都会就是会受到这些圣灵上的责备或自己内心的谴责。对，所以对于我来说的话，就有这些内在跟外在的这种两种方面的那个。
Okay, basically what he's saying is external and internal sufferings. Like external one with stress of life, demands of life, when you work, conflicts and all this stuff. But what is internal, that he understood it as sometimes you don't feel you're a good Christian. You feel accused, and you don't fulfill your responsibility. You feel the rebuke of the Holy Spirit. Okay. Now, Jilly, when you talk about internal, okay, 内在 internal rebuke of Holy Spirit, okay. And you see that as sufferings, okay? Because what you need to do, you didn't do. What you don't need to do, you do. Does that bring you closer to God? Now, I want to point you to the question: whether that suffering in you, inside, does it bring you closer or draw you further away from God?
当然，碰到这种情况之下，你都会思考自己为什么会犯这样的一个不应该做的事情。那也会学到功课，然后也会思考，就是说怎么样的靠神的话或神的那个就是说这些刚才所讲的，来克服，就是说下次不要再犯同样的错误。对，所以说我想有时候严重的话，你会想什么事都不要做就 give up， 但是通常的话。内心，我相信圣灵都会给你帮助。在时间过了一段时间之后，他会慢慢让你学到这些功课。就像圣经所讲的老练生忍耐，忍耐是那个不至于羞愧。对，所以说你就是在很多时候的这样的不断的跌倒失败之后，你就慢慢学会一些功课。譬如说，其实很多时候你不需要抱怨。抱怨其实一点用处都没有。对，你就是看看这样环境当中，神到底给你怎么样的一个带领？或许神有他的美意，比如说他从一个你一直抱怨的这样工作环境之下，他突然之间就把你这个工作拿掉了，然后但他又安排一个新的工作环境。对，你就会在这个过程当中，你可以看到神的很多的这些他的带领，他的旨意。对，所以说有时候。我就慢慢学到功课，其实也不用抱怨。对，其实很多事情发生的时候都有神在背后。
Okay, then 你有没有发现一个东西就是I mean you don't understand Mandarin, okay? You try to translate for a person beside you. 你有没有发现呢？你过后你看到了，哎呀，有神的恩典，不需要抱怨。There's no need to complain. There's the grace of God. But every time when you are stuck in the same situation again, you just still cannot give thanks to the grace of.
对，所以说这个就是你要不断的来操练自己。那我刚才在那个听你信息的时候，我也在想说，其实人的本能，我们的自然反应就是就 follow 着我们自己的那些罪性。对，我们很容易这个抱怨就会出来，我们很容易就是不满就会出来，我们不愿意就是看别人就是不顺眼，这些是一定逃不掉的。但是我就在思考说，我们怎么样的来让自己脱离这样的一个本性。那后来我就想到一个说，譬如说我们去参加一个游泳训练班， 如果说这些教练他只是不断在这些白板上啊，或是这个 instruction 上给你很多这样的一个教导，这样的一个文字上的，或是甚至图片上的那个一个教导，但是你不实际跳到水里面去游的话，你可能永远就是还不能够得到这个精髓。所以说我就想说，是不是我们在每次碰到这样的一个环境，或是我们自己设定一个这样的一个环境之下呢？我们怎么样的？首先是赶快去依靠神，然后靠着神的话，而不是说好像就是一切都是只是我们一个概念或是观念这样的一个去实行。所以说我也在思考这方面，怎么样让我的生命我的反应，第一个反应不是靠我的直觉，靠我的先天上的这些训练，而是靠真的是经过那么多功课学习之后。我怎么样学习依靠主，然后回到神的话里面，然后先就像以前牧师所教导，先慢1分钟或1秒钟。对，我们所要说的话，先不要说出口，我们是要做的那些血气不要先上来。对。
Okay, now let's go back to the questions again for the young people. Okay. Now, we hear from Esther about the sufferings, I say about studies and friends. Let's say, Esther, if there is no demand for you to study well, you need not study now, okay? If you have all your friends' approval, is it going to be the end of your sufferings? Why no? Because since you pointed out and you say that's sufferings,
I guess
yeah.
school and friends are only two, like, examples that I gave, but
So where
they
is
just never stop coming.
They just never stop coming. Okay, it will come. These are the realities, and one after another one. Okay, when you're of her age, and then her age, and his age, there will be new sufferings, right? So what is the problem about suffering? No. So what you're saying is something relative, right? Yeah. Okay. So I'm provoking you to think, what is the true suffering? Let's say you have to study for an exam. Let's say you are faced with friends who ostracize you, or who pressure you to take sides. Now there is a pressure. But what is true suffering? Okay, let me ask you a question again. Does suffering draw you away from God? Sometimes. How about Belinda?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. In what cases? When it's too much for you to take?
When I'm not sure what the right thing to do is.
When not sure what the right thing to do is. How about this? Can I suggest this? Okay. Suffering doesn't draw us away from God. But it's the deception of Satan, the lies of Satan that draw us away from God. Okay, can I say that? Now, the thing is, when you are suffering, you become very vulnerable. You open your heart to the spiritual realms where all kinds of voice just came into you. And it's a matter of what you accept that into you. That's why just now Sophia said something like suffering make you define yourself in a different way. Like the suffering comes, you're feeling really lousy, and then you start to lose all hold, and even your worth of yourself. And those stuff. So these are lies of Satan. That's why you see, this conference is about taking captive your thought. Why is suffering there always, even in such a comfortable nation that we are living in? And people are still depressive, taking antidepressant, like pop pills and like vitamins. What are those things happening? Now, it's not the environment, like work, external factors, and studies, friends. Yeah, they can be there. They provoke you, right? But the thing is, ultimately, you're going to become very vulnerable, and then you start to receive somewhere along into you, some voices into your heart. And then if you lose yourself, now, if you don't have the worldview of God, you don't have the right belief system, you need to reject those lies, you suffered. And then, okay? So this is the one kind of suffering, being deceived. So I want us to know how important it is to take captive our thoughts, And how about the other kind of suffering? I'm ending, okay? The other kind of suffering that you have believed the word of God to be so true that you cannot live your life in ease and comfort anymore, but you are like Paul in spiritual anguish, worrying about your friend's salvation, worrying about living a life for God. No, that kind of passion burning in you that you cannot stop, and like fighting with sin, you don't know why, that inclination just rises in you. Is there that kind of suffering?
Yes, but that's pretty much what I pray about privately, because I don't want anyone to feel like they're being judged.
Yeah, that's really one good thing about, you see, what I want to bring all of you into, okay, how about Sophia? You want to answer that? Have you experienced that kind of like struggle that I mentioned just now? That because you have believed the truth of God, it's nothing but the truth. And then you suffer within because of your passion for Christ. What is it like?
What it's like.
Yeah.
I think you just explained it right.
Okay. What would you do after that? When you have that kind of trials and anguish in your heart?
What do I do?
Yeah, what practically doing? It's not just feeling it, right? It's not just feeling, okay, spiritual anguish. It's like a term. What are you practically doing when you are feeling the anguish? You start to write more articles? You start to be more provoking?
Pray
Pray for what?
for specific people that
For-
is causing me that anguish.
Yeah, for certain people. Like,
Keep them in mind.
keep them in mind.
I mean, very practically, it's like text them, call them,
Okay.
pray for them in person.
In person, okay.
Take the time to be with them.
And would it come to a point where Paul said, you're not ashamed of the gospel, you approach and engage people for the gospel, and people just shut it off, and then you're fine? Have you come to that point?
I'm fine with people
rejecting me, rejecting me or not?
Rejecting me is fine, but then rejecting gospel, there should always be an anguish there.
Okay. So what I'm trying to bring out to you guys is, because in this country, even in Singapore, it's the same. We are not evangelizing much because we are so conscious about people's impression about us. Before we even start doing, we worry about what they will think about us. And that's one of the main reasons that's stopping us from really going out, to engage people, to show real concern about even praying for people, engage them for Christ. But why? Because we are not suffering that kind of suffering that Paul is experiencing in our lives. Now, I know this is something very deep. People are like 14 years old, 15 years, it's hard to think so, But I am bringing you there, okay? When you talk about suffering, it's not just the passive one. The passive as the external factors that hit you, demands of life. But there is also another kind of suffering that after you have come to the gospel of God, you realize there's no rest in your heart. Okay, that's one thing, okay? And so actually I asked them up, to actually talk about something. It's something very deep, I felt, so that we can all hear from different generation, And I believe we all have our issues, but we don't make a world out of our own problems, right? But there's one thing good about what I heard from these young people that brought up in the gospel. They feel the struggle when they're not doing the will of God. Now that is a kind of suffering that but I want to bring all of you forward. I believe a lot of people born in Christian family, you feel the struggle when you're not doing the right thing, as you should. Then you feel you're not a good Christian, But that's a good thing to start with, but you cannot remain it there, okay? You cannot let yourself remain in that situation. Accusation doesn't work, positively for the Christian soul. It's about battling with it and knowing you are battling with it, finding that affirmation. God, I'm struggling with this. and struggling with sin or my weaknesses or flesh, I'm struggling. And from there, you hear the approval of God. Because the world never struggle with this. Only genuine Christians struggle with this. All right? And so when I was in college, I struggled a lot with really studying for God and studying for the world, for grades, that kind of thing. But I don't know why I'm struggling like that, But eventually we have to be brought out from that, Okay, any other things you like to talk about? Okay, because we don't have time, okay? Actually, I have something more to ask them about sufferings and all. But anything else you want to ask me? Sophie, you want to ask me? You? Okay, I don't have all the questions. I don't have all the answers. I'm not God, okay? Okay? If you're fine with what I've given you, okay, this thing is to provoke everyone to think, okay? Who want to come up at night, okay? We have more time at night, okay? Probably we choose a few more to come up at night, okay? And talk about other subjects.
我有问题，就是说，朱牧师，你现在还是会经历这种失败，或是成功？比如说有时候失败，有时候成功这样的一个过程嘛？因为常常我会发现，好像有时候能够成功，有时候也不见得，还是经常会失败。那你自己的在这个过程当中，你是怎么样的学习，怎么样经历的
？He's asking me whether I still experience failure and success, and all. Actually, failure and success is a term the world gives. But what Paul has given us is, for Christ's sake, I delight in hardship, difficulties, even in weaknesses. Now, when you are living a life that is not I but Christ, this not I but Christ is the gospel itself. It's not about I being able to do something in my life and do it well. Because as a pastor, you see, we have our own temptation. As a pastor, we want to be effective. We want people to listen to us. We want to be a good minister. Now, these are things that work against us. It's our pride. You get what I mean? So, actually, all the while in my Christian life as a pastor, and when I see myself constantly battling with this, and because of Christ, I know that kind of battling mechanism keep working in me. I know I'm on the right track. You see, that's the thing. So that's why I talk about the paradoxical grace. To me, sometimes I've come to a point where I've nurtured people, and I expect people will leave me also in my ministry. This is a reality. Like Demas left Paul because he loved the world, that kind of thing. And there will be people who oppose you, right, Timothy? But gently instruct. So yesterday I spoke about the rules, compete according to the rules. And so to me it's about living for that, in that. It's not about having a positive consequences, and outcomes and all. So that's the spiritual battle I'm in, okay? If you want to talk about that, of course. Say for instance, just the last one, okay? For me, it's like, of course, we all have our ideals. Last year I came, I shared about my daughter. She went to the best school, and all after a lot of trials, And this year my son went to an average school. I'm fine. You get what I mean? And I take glory in that because all this while I know how God is glorifying Himself through every of my condition. Okay, of course, sometimes, we as parents, we have certain ideals, But the thing is, we don't self-absorb ourselves, or self-imagine that ideal that God make it happen, We always fall back into finding rest and satisfaction in the Lord and glorifying God through every encounters and condition He's given us. And I take joy in that. And sometimes for that to really materialize in your Christian life, you got to go through certain non-ideals and you struggle through and then you come out a better Christian. That is the process of a true Christian living. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, what I'm saying, all right, this is what I have for you. All right, so go on, okay? Maybe at night I get up again, okay? Because we're short of time today. Okay, feeling is here. All right.